Noor is a hard-working young man with dreams of adventure, but his lack of talent has limited him to learning only one basic skill. Growing up, he tirelessly assisted his ailing mother, fetching her water and tending to the goats. As he prepares to take the goats to the hills, his mother warns him not to stray past the lake, promising to be careful and to catch some wild rabbits for dinner. Noor feels her love and concern. Knowing her time is short, she wipes dirt from his face, apologizing for not being able to do more and urging him to live life fully after she's gone. That evening, while making dinner, Noor discovers to his horror that his mother has passed away. Overwhelmed with grief, he buries her, then resolves to honor her final wish by pursuing a life of adventure. Though lacking grand ambitions, he dedicates himself to his daily routine, feeling increasingly lonely in the quiet house. One night, while searching for something on the shelf, Noor stumbles upon an old book, a collection of stories his father once read to him about a brave adventurer. Inspired by these tales, he decides to chase his newfound ambition. The next day, he feeds the animals and visits his parents' graves to share his goal. After bidding them farewell, he steps beyond the familiar borders of his childhood home. Noor spends his first night in the woods before reaching the bustling city the next day. Awestruck by the crowds, he searches for the Adventurers Guild. Upon arriving, he is met by a friendly guard who points him in the right direction. Excitement builds as he imagines achieving his dreams, but at the guild, a burly receptionist tells him he's too young to become an adventurer and should return home before his parents worry. With both of Noor's parents gone, becoming an adventurer is now his only aspiration. The receptionist, seeing Noor's determination, acknowledges his situation and informs him that while most new adventurers aren't as young, he can pursue this path, but he must first attend a training school to acquire useful skills. Whether swordsmanship, magic, or archery, Noor is eager to learn. In choosing swordsmanship, inspired by tales of adventurers slaying dragons with a single swing, Noor begins his training. As he practices, he witnesses a fellow student unlock hidden potential, motivating him to push harder. However, months pass, and while others gain abilities, Noor struggles to achieve anything special. When his instructor suggests he stop wasting time, Noor pleads for more practice, but the instructor insists he should consider a different profession since his only skill is parrying. Disappointed, Noor tries his hand at becoming a warrior, but after several months, all he gains is a slightly improved physique. The instructor warns him against continuing, fearing it could be dangerous for his health. Undeterred, Noor attempts to become a hunter, but he breaks every bow he touches. Despite trying various professions, he realizes he possesses no talents at all. Returning to the Adventurers Guild, he shares his disheartening experience with the receptionist, who feels for him but knows he can't venture forth without skills. Feeling defeated, Noor heads home but resolves to train harder than ever. He crafts a wooden practice sword and vows to hone the parrying skill he managed to learn. For a year, he trains relentlessly, parrying 10 attacks at once, though he still hasn't gained new skills. 3 years later, his parry ability has advanced to the point where he can deflect over 100 strikes simultaneously. However, despite his progress, he remains skill-less. After 10 more years of grueling practice, Noor's parrying has evolved into the Makiri parry, allowing him to deflect an entire force of attacks with one arm, but he still hasn't unlocked any new skills. Realizing that no amount of training will unlock a new skill, Noor decides to give it one last shot at the Adventurers Guild. He arrives and lists his skills, but aside from parrying, everything else seems useless. When the receptionist questions his skills, he confirms that's all he has. She suggests checking out the training program, but Noor explains that he has attended every training school in the city without gaining anything useful. Apologizing, the receptionist informs him that he cannot register without meeting the criteria. Just then, the former receptionist, now the guildmaster, emerges and recognizes Noor, though it takes him a moment. Sitting down, he asks about Noor's journey, who admits that his training has yielded only minor improvements in his parrying skill. The guildmaster explains that to become an E-rank adventurer, Noor needs at least 2 useful skills. However, he offers hope there is a rank below E rank requiring only 2 functioning brain cells. Excited, Noor learns that this F rank comes with restrictions, forbidding him from taking on quests involving monster killing or leaving the city. Typically, no one is desperate enough to take on F rank, but Noor insists on signing up. Reluctantly, the guildmaster grants him an F rank license. Elated, Noor immediately sets off to complete his first quest, using his enhanced strength to carry heavy goods for delivery. He finds joy in helping others, fulfilling his dream of becoming an adventurer, even as an F rank. The next day, he clears out a gutter for an old lady and assists with a construction job, impressing the foreman with his strength. But while working, he hears a girl screaming for help from the nearby dungeon. Without hesitation, he sprints to offer aid. Inside, he discovers a girl and her party under attack by a massive minotaur, which Noor mistakes for an enormous cow. Stunned, he watches as the minotaur closes in, with knights desperately defending the girl. One knight pushes her to safety, only to be gruesomely chopped in half by the beast. Noor tries to check on the fallen knight, but realizes there's no hope for him as the Minotaur continues its brutal assault. As the battle rages on, the Minotaur leaves only the girl alive, paralyzed with fear. Realizing he must act quickly to save her, Noor picks up a sword and grabs a rock to distract the beast. His plan works, drawing the Minotaur's attention. When it charges, Noor perfectly parries its attack, sending the beast crashing into a nearby building. The Minotaur recovers and strikes at Noor with its axe, forcing him into a defensive stance. A single direct hit could be fatal, but without any offensive skills, Noor can only parry. Suddenly, the Minotaur remembers the girl and turns to finish her off. Determined to protect her, Noor uses his feather step skill to position himself in front of her, countering the axe strike. His sword shatters, but he refuses to back down, resolved to defend the weak. In a desperate move, he uses the broken sword to execute a Miri counter, sending the Minotaur's axe back at it and severing its head. Noor feels a rush of relief for saving the girl. However, as she thanks him, he brushes off the credit and leaves without revealing his name, still seeing himself as a failure. To him, the Minotaur was just an oversized cow, and he believes he has much more training to do. Later, a cleanup crew arrives to deal with the aftermath, collecting the bodies of those who fought the Minotaur. Princess Lindbergh feels responsible for their deaths. Her knight rushes to apologize for not being by her side, but Lindbergh insists it wasn't her fault. This was merely a basic trial for her claim to the throne. Another knight informs her they must return to the castle as Lord Rain wishes to speak with her. Back at the castle, Rain learns of the incident, but finds it perplexing a Minotaur shouldn't have been in that area unless magically summoned. The knight agrees, noting that a dead merchant was found at the scene with a ring containing a highly pure magic stone, something not typically available in the market. Considering that a Minotaur is an 11th threat, Rain concludes that no ordinary merchant could possess such power. The crest on the ring traces back to the magical empire of Doritos, suggesting they are behind this assassination attempt. Rain suspects they aim to provoke a war to gain control of the dungeon. He is also intrigued by the unknown warrior who defeated the Minotaur with nothing but a broken sword. Castle spies attempted to follow him but reported he vanished without a trace. Rain is determined to uncover the identity of this mysterious savior. Meanwhile, Noor returns to the guild, and the guild master is surprised to see him alive. He heard about a demon appearing in the dungeon near the construction site where Noor was working and feared the worst. Noor apologizes for the worry, explaining that he had to shake off some shady figures following him the previous night and went home without reporting the incident. The guild master tells Noor he's lucky to be alive, as a Minotaur is a powerful demon capable of killing even a rank adventurer in an instant. Oblivious to the fact that the guildmaster is talking about the same cow he defeated, Noor asks what happened to the demon. The guildmaster reveals it was taken down by a mysterious man. Still unaware that he is the man in question, Noor continues with his report on the jobs he completed that day. After giving him his payment, the guildmaster reminds Noor that he'd earn more money with a regular job, but Noor insists he doesn't care about the money, he just wants to be an adventurer. Just then, Princess Lindbergh appears, thrilled to have found him. She apologizes for invading his privacy, but admits she used her long-distance detection skill to track him down. Noor assumes she must be a thief-class adventurer for having such a skill, but Lin corrects him, revealing she is actually a magician with basic skills across multiple classes. As patrons begin to recognize Lin, she asks Noor to step outside to talk. Before they leave, the guild master pulls Noor aside, asking what he did to warrant her attention. Noor reassures him he hasn't done anything illegal, and the guild master reluctantly lets them go, advising Noor to avoid any trouble. Once outside, Lin uses her concealment skill to hide them from prying eyes. In a secluded spot, she expresses her gratitude once more for saving her life and countless others. Noor brushes off her high praise, insisting he merely took down a cow and believes Lin could have handled it on her own. He has no idea how mistaken he is, having witnessed several knights fall to the Minotaur. Lin insists that without his intervention, she would have certainly perished. Even as Noor accepts her thanks, she wants to offer him a reward, but he firmly declines. Lin persists, even suggesting she could get him a territory of his own. When Noor continues to refuse, she begins to cry, pleading with him to accept something, as she won't leave until he does. Recalling a time when he used a similar tactic to persuade a cleric to train him, Noor reluctantly agrees to meet her father, still resisting any extravagant gifts. Lin's eyes light up with joy, and she instructs him to follow her closely so she can conceal them from view. Eventually, they arrive at Lin's lavish home. As they walk inside, Lin asks for Noor's name, which he gladly provides, though he still doesn't know who she is. She apologizes for not introducing herself sooner, revealing her full name Lindbergh Clays, but she prefers to be called Lin. As they continue, Noor realizes just how wealthy Lin's family is, understanding now why the guild master was concerned about him making a fool of himself. They encounter a royal knight along the way, and Lin happily greets her, inquiring about her father's whereabouts. The knight informs her that her father is busy with a meeting with Lord Rain. Curious, Lin introduces Noor as the man who saved her life, prompting the knight to lead them to Lin's father. Noor, unfamiliar with the concept of a royal knight, mistakenly assumes he must be a family retainer fond of armor. Unbeknownst to him, he notices Lin's discontent with the knight but has no idea why. As they walk through the grand halls, they come across a man lounging by the window. As soon as he notices them, he rises and asks, "What's up, Lin? Who's this random guy?" Lin quickly urges Gilbert to put his spear down, explaining that Noor is her guest and it's rude to point weapons at him. Realizing Noor must be the one who saved Lin's life, Gilbert begrudgingly lowers his weapon and invites them to the throne room, where Lin could use all the help she can get. Noor senses Gilbert's lingering skepticism and worries that things may not go well for him. They proceed toward the throne room, where the king is in the midst of a tense meeting with Lord Rain. The king is visibly upset, realizing that Doritas has little regard for their peace treaty. Rain has anticipated this since the last meeting, where the king of Doritas demanded the rights to the dungeon be relinquished, a demand that had been firmly rejected. Ever since, it's clear that the king of Doritas has been plotting their downfall. Just then, Lin and the others arrive in the throne room. She excitedly rushes over to greet her father and brother. Ains and Gilbert kneel in respect, but Noor continues walking, unaware of the protocol. The king notices Lin's disguised cloak, indicating she ventured outside without permission. She explains that it was the only way to find the man who saved her. Realizing she's referring to Noor, the king turns his attention to him. Noor, feeling out of place in his messy state, apologizes for intruding. He admits he's not an aristocrat and isn't familiar with the proper etiquette, fearing he might accidentally say something rude. The king assures him it's fine, he prefers a straightforward conversation. The king extends his hand, formally thanking Noor for saving Lin's life. Noor brushes it off, insisting a simple thank you is enough. However, the king insists on rewarding him and offers any amount of money or land he desires. To the king's surprise, Noor still declines. Taken aback, the king raises the offer to half of all their treasures from the dungeon. Rain interjects, deeming such a reward excessive for a single man, but Noor remains steadfast in his refusal. At a loss for how to reward Noor, the king approaches his throne and picks up a sword that hangs there. Rain cautions against giving away such a valuable weapon, but the king waves off his concern, stating he never uses it anymore and can easily replace it with a replica. He hands the sword to Noor, who immediately feels its weight and value. Though reluctant to accept such an extravagant gift, the king insists it's just something he picked up during his own adventuring days. Finally agreeing to accept the sword, Noor is asked to give it a test swing. He obliges, swinging the sword through the air with such force that everyone around him gasps in surprise. The king praises Noor's strength for wielding it so effortlessly with one hand. Then, the king makes a request. He wants Noor to help train Lin to become an adventurer. Noor protests, believing he has nothing to teach someone as talented as her, and insists that Lin should decide her own path. As their meeting wraps up, Noor feels it's time to head home. As he walks away, he realizes something special about the sword. It's the perfect shape for cleaning out the gutters he usually tackles. Excited, he plans to try it out the next morning. Before Noor leaves the throne room, he's approached by An, who wants to speak with him. She starts by apologizing for her earlier rudeness, acknowledging that her behavior was completely uncalled for. Noor reassures her that it's no trouble after all. Her job is to protect the Clay's family at all costs. Grateful for his bravery in saving Lin, Ain offers her assistance if he ever needs help. Rather than get into a back and forth about it, Noor simply accepts her offer, saying he'll reach out if anything comes up. However, Ain warns Noor that he should never speak to the king so casually again. Although the king may have allowed it this time, she won't tolerate such disrespect in the future. Noor nods, understanding the gravity of her words. In a lighter mood, Ain asks for his name. When she hears Noor, her expression shifts to one of surprise. Noor asks if he's done something wrong, but she brushes it off and takes her leave. As Noor prepares to exit, Gilbert steps in, eager to challenge him to a fight. Rick, following closely behind, is exhausted from the day's adventures and just wants to head home. Noor inquires about the fight, and Gilbert leads him to the castle's training room, where he proposes a mock battle. Noor hasn't sparred with anyone since his training days, and the idea excites him. Gilbert approaches the weapons rack, boasting about his reputation in the royal capital. He wants to see what the hero who saved Lin can do in combat. Noor happily accepts the challenge, viewing it as a chance to improve his skills. A small crowd gathers, murmuring in sympathy for the poor soul who dared to face Captain Gilbert. As the match begins, Gilbert strikes first, but Noor easily dodges. As he continues to evade Gilbert's attacks, he remarks on the precision of Gilbert's movements, imagining the extensive training it took to reach this level. However, he wonders why Gilbert's attacks feel so slow. Given that Noor has never practiced with another person, he assumes Gilbert must be intentionally holding back because of his novice status. Noor calls for a timeout, urging Gilbert to stop going easy on him. Although Gilbert had been holding back a little, he agrees to ramp it up and charges at Noor with renewed vigor. His attacks are much faster, but Noor finds it peculiar that Gilbert is leaving himself open for a counterattack. Sensing a trap, Noor proceeds cautiously. Meanwhile, Gilbert is baffled by his inability to land a hit on Noor. He attempts one of his signature moves, but Noor surprises him by jumping into the air to evade it. When Gilbert strikes at him midair, Noor nimbly ducks beneath the attack. It becomes clear that none of Gilbert's efforts have fazed Noor, who urges him to speed up even more. Feeling his pride wounded, Gilbert takes Noor's challenge to heart. Just then, he unleashes his ultimate skill, desperate to land at least one hit. However, when the dust settles, Noor has vanished from sight and reappears beside Gilbert. With a calm demeanor, Noor concedes, saying he gives up. Afterward, Noor heads home, relieved to escape before things turn sour. Meanwhile, back in the training hall, Gilbert's subordinates scramble to justify why their captain is still stronger than Noor, even though his ultimate move failed. Deep down, Gilbert knows the truth he has lost in every conceivable way. He has wielded a spear since the first day he picked one up, and no one could rival his power. The more he trained, the stronger he became, yet this encounter with Noor has shaken his confidence. Gilbert felt nothing but boredom despite being crowned the spear sovereign. He had traveled around the kingdom seeking strong opponents, but he had already defeated every warrior in a particular village. The village chief, apologetic, explained that there was no one there to match Gilbert's strength. He mentioned rumors of deteriorating relations with a foreign country, suggesting that if war loomed, Gilbert might finally encounter someone capable of challenging him. Returning to the capital, Gilbert was disappointed to find that no soldier could stand up to him. Even demon slaying had lost its thrill. No matter how formidable the demon, he was sick of being surrounded by weaklings. While relaxing under a tree, his instructor approached, noticing his glum demeanor. Despite his fancy title, Gilbert felt trapped in a world of mediocrity. The instructor pointed out Ain's strength, acknowledging her capabilities, but Gilbert felt that their mock battles were never truly competitive. He longed for worthy opponents like his instructor, who was stuck training rookie adventurers that could barely measure up. His instructor shared his belief that someday, an adventurer would surpass Gilbert's own strength. Upon hearing about a man who single-handedly defeated a minotaur, Gilbert felt a flicker of interest. He wanted to meet this man. Yet Noor's indifference to the king's lavish gifts and his casual demeanor during their fight baffled Gilbert. He had sensed no great power from Noor, yet he had managed to dodge all of Gilbert's moves, even his supersonic spear strike. Gilbert assumed Noor forfeited the match out of courtesy, not wanting to embarrass him. As Noor departed, Gilbert noticed cracks in the floor, evidence of the immense force exerted during their spar. It dawned on him that he had finally found a worthy opponent. Meanwhile, Noor walked home, reflecting on his encounter. He realized he had been foolish to think himself strong. Even with his abilities, he had barely evaded Gilbert's ultimate attack. Suspecting that Gilbert had been holding back enough to make a point. Grateful for the reminder of his own limitations, Noor resolved to train harder. The next morning, Noor was busy with his usual gutter cleaning job, using the legendary sword to assist him. To his astonishment, the sword worked wonders. The gutters had never been so clean. Its durability meant it remained unscathed. However, once finished, Noor found himself with nothing to do. His construction job was on hold due to the dungeon incident, and as a rank F worker in the royal capital, he faced the prospect of long stretches of idleness. Not wanting that, he considered starting a boat ride business, using the sword as an oar, but realized he would need a boat for that. Making pizzas crossed his mind, but he'd need an oven. Even the idea of using the sword as a grill fell flat since he could only conjure a flame with his fingertips. Just then, he heard rustling in the bushes. Turning around, he found Lin standing there. She apologized for showing up unexpectedly, explaining that she couldn't find him at the guild and had tracked him down using her abilities. Noor asked why she was there, and Lin got straight to the point. She wanted him to accept her as his page, an unpaid assistant who would help with his daily needs and hope to gain knowledge from him. Despite her insistence that she wouldn't be a burden, Noor refused, explaining that he had nothing to teach her and could manage his work just fine. Determined, Lin offered a hefty salary, but Noor remained uninterested in money. Desperate to prove her worth, she pulled out her wand and prepared to demonstrate her competence. She cast an ice spell, sending several icicles toward herself, then used a fire spell to obliterate them before they could strike. She claimed this was the highest level of magic she could use, boasting about her secret skill, Mistblade, learned from the Sovereign of Shadows. With determination, she launched a divine slash directly at Noor, who evaded it effortlessly. The damage to the tree was proof of the spell's strength, enhanced further against undead monsters. As Lin prepared to showcase more of her skills, Noor interrupted her, stating he had seen enough. Misunderstanding his intent, she believed this meant he was willing to accept her as his page. Noor, however, stood firm in his denial, feeling increasingly inferior after witnessing her capabilities. Despite her insistence that she could be useful to him, Noor reiterated that he had nothing to teach her. Lin misinterpreted this as Noor thinking she was too weak to be his student, asserting her powers had been acknowledged by all 6 sovereigns. Left speechless, Lin walked away, reflecting on a tale she had heard, a story of a boy with no talent who had completed all 6 training schools. Many thought it was a mere legend, as most adults couldn't withstand the rigorous demands of even one school. Lin had also dismissed it as a fake story until she met the boy during her own studies. Oaken, the greatest wizard in the world, had shown her something intriguing about the basic spell, Tiny Flame. Typically, the flame produced was no larger than a point, but with enough practice, one could create a slightly bigger flame. While Oaken practiced this out of hobby over his 2 centuries of life, Lin had struggled to make her own flame grow at all. This realization hit her hard. Noor had created a massive tiny flame, far exceeding what Oaken could manage. His achievements were all through his own effort, whereas Lin's magic was merely memorization. Though Noor had the power to defeat a minotaur, he lived a humble life without boasting. She recognized his strength not just in body but also in mind, believing he was a role model for her ambitions. As she envisioned her future leading the kingdom alongside her brother and father, she yearned to learn how to attain strength like his. If Noor refused to teach her, she resolved to follow him until he changed his mind. Meanwhile, at the mansion, the prince fumed to himself about his father gifting the black blade to an unknown man. The sword had been acquired during the king's adventuring days alongside the 6 sovereigns, found in the depths of a dangerous dungeon. It was renowned for being made from an indestructible material, yet somehow ended up in bad shape. The prince couldn't fathom the king's motives, but speculated that, given the rising unrest in the kingdom, perhaps the king was counting on Noor to instigate some change. Later, Noor and Lin found themselves at a food stand. Noor hesitated, asking if it was appropriate for her to be casually hanging out with him. Lin dismissed his concerns, claiming her current status as an adventurer allowed her the freedom to do as she pleased. Noor decided to share his plans to head to the guild after eating, still uneasy about the teacher-student dynamic they were forming. He felt unworthy of such a title, yet Lin followed him eagerly, seemingly oblivious to his discomfort. Noor considered that if he took on some regular errand quests from the guild, she might eventually recognize that he was just an ordinary guy and lose interest. But with the excitement in her eyes, he doubted that would happen anytime soon. After lunch, Noor and Lin made their way to the guild, where the guild master was taken aback to see Noor casually hanging out with the princess. He inquired about their relationship, prompting Lin to remind him that while she was present, she was just an adventurer and not to refer to her as a princess. The guild master, still confused, turned to Noor for clarification. Noor sighed, stating it was a complicated story, but the guild master had enough experience to know not to pry into complex subplots. Shifting the focus back to business, the guildmaster asked if Noor had come for another quest. Noor confirmed this, specifying he needed one suitable for 2 people. The guildmaster scanned the available quests, and given Lin's silver B rank, he was surprised to find that they could take on a goblin hunting quest. For Noor, this was exhilarating. Goblin quests were a staple for new adventurers to hone their skills. Yet, he felt a twinge of guilt for taking advantage of Lin's higher rank. He hesitated, asking Lin if she was comfortable with this arrangement, acknowledging that he would be relying on her rank. Lin, however, assured him it was fine, she simply wanted to help however she could. Relieved, Noor accepted her enthusiasm, even if he still felt uneasy about depending on someone younger. Resolute in pursuing one of his dreams, he picked up his sword, ready to head out, but the guild master reminded him that he hadn't yet provided the quest details. After Noor returned to inquire further, the guild master pointed to a map indicating their destination in the Forest of Beasts. He explained that they were only allowed to report the goblins they actually captured, emphasizing that they needed to bring back the right ears as proof of their kills to receive compensation. With goblin populations dwindling, he also noted that if they failed to find any, they could instead gather medicinal herbs. With that settled, Noor and Lin proceeded to the gatekeepers for their information verification before setting off on their quest. A while later, they arrived in the Forest of Beasts, where Noor was struck by the thick, unfamiliar vegetation surrounding them. Curious about goblins before their encounter, he turned to Lin for insights. Lin explained that goblins typically hunted small animals and gathered fruit but could become aggressive toward humans if their population went unchecked. The guild issued quests like this to help manage their numbers, but she cautioned that goblins also played a vital role in the forest ecosystem, so hunting them to extinction wasn't advisable. Noor appreciated her thorough knowledge, further solidifying his belief that he had little to teach her. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Lin activated her search ability to detect nearby goblins, but her scan returned empty. Given the circumstances, they should have encountered at least one goblin by now, lending credence to the rumors about their dwindling numbers. However, her scan did pick up a monster-like creature nearby. Intrigued, Noor agreed to investigate. As they delved further into the dense woods, an ominous atmosphere settled around them. Lin's senses suddenly alerted her to something odd. The presence of the creature she had detected vanished. They reached the area where the monster had been but found nothing at first glance. However, Noor spotted a pair of legs suspended in midair, and Lin quickly cast an uncover spell, revealing a massive goblin hidden among the trees. Noor, bewildered, asked what it was. Lin clarified, though she regretted not specifying that this wasn't a regular goblin. Its impressive physique, complete with 10-pack abs, made Noor mistakenly think all goblins looked like this. The towering goblin picked up 2 trees to wield as weapons, prompting panic in Lin, who was experiencing sheer terror. Noor, assuming her fear stemmed from a lack of combat experience, remained calm. But the truth was far more alarming. They were face to face with a goblin emperor. This creature, a grotesque product of genetic enhancement, was rumored to have been created by scientists who locked a goblin in a gym with nothing but protein powder and steroids. With its muscular frame and terrifying ability to consume other goblins to absorb their strength, this was no ordinary foe. Noor spoke up, reassuring Lin that there was nothing to worry about. From his limited knowledge of goblins, he believed even new adventurers should be able to take down a creature like this. His confidence, however, gave Lin the false impression that he must have known about the Goblin Emperor all along, fueling her respect for him. Inspired by his assurance, she resolved to muster her courage and stand alongside him in the fight. As the goblin charged toward them, Noor swiftly got into position, parrying its wild strikes. Realizing Noor's skill, the goblin attempted to corner him for an advantage, but Noor anticipated its move and overpowered the creature, locking it in place. He called out to Lin to attack. She unleashed a wind spell, followed by an icicle barrage, but the goblin moved too swiftly for her to land a clean shot. When the goblin finally halted, it hurled a massive tree at them. Noor instinctively jumped in front of Lin to block the incoming blow, absorbing the impact. The goblin continued its assault, launching multiple trees from both above and in front of Noor, forcing him to a defensive stance. Just as he was about to be overwhelmed, Lin used a wind blast spell, pushing the trees aside while also dealing damage to the goblin. Grateful for her assistance, Noor thanked her, but as Lin glanced back at their opponent, shock washed over her. The goblin was healing at an alarming rate, its mana stone likely replenishing its strength. Realizing they would exhaust themselves before defeating it, Noor quickly devised a new strategy. He instructed Lin to fire a wind blast straight at his back. Lin hesitated, considering the destructive potential of her spell. A direct hit could seriously injure Noor, but he insisted, explaining that with his sword positioned behind him, he wouldn't take the full force of the blast. They needed speed to outpace the goblin, and this was their best shot. Reluctantly, Lin agreed. As the goblin prepared to attack again, she launched a wind blast, sending Noor hurtling forward at breakneck speed. He blacked out momentarily, but upon regaining consciousness, he activated his physical enhancement abilities to stabilize himself. He utilized Feather Step to dodge the monster's tree throws and low heal to alleviate the strain on his body. Finally close enough to strike, Noor aimed for the goblin's forehead, landing a clean hit that dislodged the mana stone. With the stone removed, Lin could now finish it off without causing unnecessary suffering. She promised not to make it suffer, but in a twist, unleashed a fiery spell that burned the goblin to death. I don't think that counts as a suffering-free death, Noor thought, bemused. Relieved to be done with their quest, Noor vowed to refrain from any further goblin-slaying missions he didn't feel strong enough to handle even the most basic goblins as he was now. Later that evening, the prince received word of the Goblin Emperor's defeat. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Magic Empire was somehow involved. What truly concerned him was the purity of the mana stone found within the goblin's head, a material that could only have come from the holy theocracy of Mithra. Now, they had to worry about that threat as well. Inquiring about Lin's condition post-battle, the prince felt relieved to learn she had only sustained minor wounds, despite facing such a formidable foe. According to Lin, the goblin had been using high-level cloaking magic, suggesting it had been lurking in the forest for several days. The prince was astonished that it possessed a level of magic imperceptible even to their elite forces. He pondered how the Magic Empire could transport a creature of that size into the kingdom without anyone noticing. Even with summoning magic, the kingdom's magic network should have detected its presence. He pressed for any signs that the Goblin Emperor had been in the area, and the Secret Course reported a significant drop in the number of regular goblins, prompting the guild to post investigation jobs. In an effort to anticipate further incidents, they compiled a list of strange occurrences from the past 3 months. The prince thanked them, urging continued investigation to keep him informed of any new developments. Meanwhile, Noor and Lin reported back to the guild to claim their reward. The guild master greeted Noor, asking how his first goblin hunt had gone. Still believing the Goblin Emperor was a typical goblin, Noor admitted it was far more difficult than he had anticipated. He acknowledged that without Lin's support, he had no idea how he would have fared. The guild master chuckled, teasing that Noor must have hidden while Lin did all the work. Humble as ever, Noor credited Lin entirely, expressing regret that he hadn't realized the redstone on the goblin's forehead was a weak spot earlier. The guild master raised an eyebrow, confused, as regular goblins didn't have magic stones on their heads. "Are you sure it was just a goblin?" he asked, incredulously. Noor, oblivious to the absurdity, shrugged and insisted that all goblins were about 12 feet tall, further reinforcing his belief that what they faced was a normal goblin. The guild master took Noor at his word, and with the paperwork officially complete, all they needed was to present proof of the goblin kill. That's when they both remembered Lin had burned the body to ashes, leaving them with nothing to show for their victory. Meanwhile, in the castle, Prince Rain was poring over a compiled report detailing every strange occurrence in the kingdom. He was shocked to discover many of these reports mirrored the incident in the Forest of Beasts, suggesting that the enemy had already infiltrated the kingdom on a significant scale. He quickly ordered the Secret Service to gather every member with search skills and head into the forest to root out any intruders. He also called upon the 6 sovereigns for assistance, realizing this could be a grave emergency. As the Secret Service mobilized, Rain couldn't believe he hadn't seen this brewing threat earlier. The Magical Empire's intentions were unclear, but he felt disgusted that they were willing to endanger the lives of innocent citizens simply to reclaim rights to the dungeon. Back with Noor and Lin, they were enjoying a meal together. Fortunately, the guild master had been kind enough to give Noor his reward despite the lack of proof. He trusted that Noor and Lin wouldn't lie about their accomplishment, and after all, a single goblin wasn't worth much, so he saw no harm in it. Noor felt a sense of achievement for completing his first hunt alongside Lin, but he couldn't shake the thought of how long she intended to stay by his side. Evening was settling in, and he wondered if the king had begun to worry about her absence. Just then, Lin turned to Noor, mentioning that it was about time she headed home for the day, but promised to return the next day to hang out. Before she could leave, Prince Rain arrived not looking for Lin, but for Noor. He had an urgent request. Apologizing for the sudden nature of his demand, he explained that he needed Noor to accompany Lin to a city in the mountain district the next morning. Rain promised a carriage and an escort for the journey, along with compensation for Noor's trouble. Noor agreed, even though he hadn't been given much detail about the mission. However, his acceptance had little to do with the task itself. He had never ridden in a carriage before, and was curious about the experience. As they traveled, Noor marveled at the stunning scenery. Having only seen his home and the capital, the landscapes unfolded like a painting before his eyes. Lin, however, didn't share his enthusiasm for the ride. When he asked if she didn't like the scenery, she acknowledged its beauty but felt guilty that Noor had to take on a request from her brother. Noor reassured her that he didn't mind he was being well compensated for it and still owed her a favor for helping with the goblin hunt. Before they left, Rain had outlined their route, first heading to the mountain district of Tauros, where they would wait briefly. If nothing unusual happened, they would proceed to cross the mountains into the holy theocracy of Mithra. Noor wondered aloud if it was really acceptable for him to be paid for doing nothing, to which Rain replied it was fine, but that would only be in the best case scenario should everything go smoothly. Lin expressed her hope that everything would turn out fine. Although she didn't want to mention it, Rain had given her a secret order before they left, a dire warning that an unprecedented crisis would soon befall the royal capital. He instructed her to flee to Mithra, with Noor if they received news of the capital's destruction, knowing she would insist on staying and fighting otherwise. At the moment, Lin was worried about leaving the capital, and Noor as they approached this potential crisis, but Rain insisted her role was crucial. She was the only one he could trust to keep Noor safe, no matter what. Presently, the trio took a break by a river, and Ayan seized the moment to apologize to Noor for inadvertently dragging him into this situation. Noor, puzzled, pointed out that this was supposed to be a routine trip. Sensing that Ayan seemed upset, he inquired if something was bothering her. Ayan admitted she was worried, especially about her duties to protect Noor. He reassured her that he was perfectly capable of defending himself and that if things got truly dangerous, he wouldn't hesitate to run. Aang countered that she wouldn't let him do that if trouble arose. She would protect both him and Lin with her shield. Noor was taken aback to learn she had a shield since she appeared to have no visible equipment. Aang offered to demonstrate and summoned a shield of green light before her, leaving Noor in awe. She explained that he could seek shelter behind it if danger struck. As they talked, Noor learned that Aang was said to be almost as strong as Gilbert, who was reputedly capable of taking down dragons. Meanwhile, he felt comparatively weak, having only recently managed to take on a goblin. When Noor complimented Aang's ability, she humbly brushed it aside. She recalled discovering her special power as a child in the orphanage. One day, her friend had touched the glowing light emanating from her hand, resulting in injury. The trauma haunted her, but the adults quickly healed her friend and asked Aang to demonstrate her ability. Though reluctant, she showed them her green light, which they recognized as a divine gift of power capable of taking the form of a sword to vanquish foes or a shield to protect loved ones. The sovereign, recognizing its potential, offered to teach her how to wield it properly. Under the tutelage of the shield sovereign, Dandel, Aang mastered the ability to form shields that could withstand even the mightiest of boulders. Despite mastering her powers, Aang lived with the constant fear of accidentally harming others due to a traumatic incident with a friend. This fear caused her to distance herself from those around her. However, when she met Noor, she was taken aback. She recognized his name from a mission with Dandel, where he had just saved her from a giant mantis. Yet, as the soldiers began to show signs of fatigue against more monsters ahead, Dandel had expressed a desire for someone like Noor to be around, a sentiment that made Aang green with jealousy. After all, Noor had earned her adoptive father's approval long before she had, which fueled her unwarranted hostility toward him when they first met. Although she still felt that jealousy, Aang was determined not to let her emotions compromise her mission to protect Lin. As they journeyed through the fields, Noor noticed a strange dead patch in the grass. Lin immediately sensed something was off and cast an uncover spell, dispelling the concealment magic to reveal a giant poisonous frog. Meanwhile, back at the capital, the situation had deteriorated, just as Rain had feared. Monsters were sighted all across the city, and while the warrior corps was managing the situation, they lacked the numbers to confront every threat. Rain ordered the swordsman troops to block the roads, aiming to halt the monsters' advance. He sought assistance from the Secret Service and hunters, But the king remained in disbelief that Doritos could be so petty as to unleash such destruction just for personal grievances. Rain informed the king that the 6 sovereigns were dispatched to various locations due to exceptionally powerful monsters, leaving their forces stretched thin and their chances of victory dwindling. Back with Lin and the others, after Lin had cast the Uncover spell, a little boy next to the monster was attacked. He recognized the creature as a Black Death Dragon. Without hesitation, Noor leaped into action to defend the boy from the monster's deadly strike, parrying just in time. Aang turned to Lin, noting that the boy had appeared alongside the monster, meaning he had been concealed by the same spell. This could only mean one thing: the boy was demonkin. Lin recalled discussions with Rain about demonkin humanoid beings with the unique ability to form mental bonds with monsters, often regarded as abominations by society. Historical records revealed that Mithra had nearly been wiped out by demonkin 200 years ago, leading to their extensive hunting until they were thought to be extinct. However, some still survive, harboring deep-seated hatred for humans, which meant this boy likely led the monster here to attack the capital. Aang was incredulous that Noor would help someone she perceived as an enemy. Regardless, Lin felt compelled to assist Noor, but Aang firmly held her back, insisting it wasn't safe to intervene. While parrying the frog's attacks, Noor assessed the creature's strength that was far weaker than the goblin he had fought with Lin. If he could just hold it off until Lin or Aang arrived, defeating it would be simple. However, he underestimated the frog's tactics. The creature released a cloud of dark gas toward him. Normally, Noor would leap aside to save himself, but doing so would leave the boy vulnerable. He chose to parry the gas instead, but this decision came at a grave cost. He quickly became poisoned. The effects were catastrophic. Blood seeped from his mouth and eyes as the poison coursed through him. Realizing the severity of his condition, Noor collapsed to the ground, his strength waning as the frog prepared to unleash another wave of poison. Lin rushed to save him, but Aang stopped her, warning that the next cloud would be larger, putting her in danger. Aang's primary duty was to protect Lin, believing that if she could ensure Lin's survival, the kingdom could eventually recover. Even the most skilled healer would struggle to save Noor from the Black Death Dragon's poison. As the monster spewed another wave of toxin, Aang raised her shield to block it. Despite her efforts, some poison seeped through, prompting Lin to use a purification spell to try and hold it back, but it was insufficient. While struggling against the onslaught, Lin apologized to Noor for leaving him to die, torn by her morals as she witnessed someone on the verge of death. To her surprise, she saw Noor still battling the frog, blood dripping from his wounds. In that moment, she understood why Dandel held Noor in such high regard: his indomitable will to protect others, no matter the cost. Yet, as valiant as Noor's fight was, the poison would inevitably claim his life. Once again, Noor collapsed to the ground, blood pooling around him. Struggling to maintain consciousness, he managed to smile and declared, "This is good." It seemed he had a plan to defeat the frog, even in his weakened state. As the chaos unfolded, we get a glimpse into the tragic backstory of the demonkin child. From the moment he and other so-called cursed children were born, they were ostracized for their ability to control monsters. Locked away in cells and fed disgusting meals, the boy suffered daily beatings for no reason. Whenever he asked what he had done to deserve such cruelty, he was met with further violence until he was nearly unrecognizable. After 3 days without food, he learned to remain silent, hoping to minimize his suffering. Eventually, the boy was put on display for townspeople to insult and attack as they pleased. While this was the common fate for demonkin, his situation was particularly dire because he possessed the ability to read minds. The moment people discovered his gift, their hatred intensified, leading them to treat him with even greater brutality. Despite his harrowing experiences, the thought of revenge never crossed his mind. He loathed his circumstances but could not bring himself to hurt others. One fateful day, his captor ordered him to control 2 monsters and use them to attack a neighboring kingdom. In exchange for complying, the boy was promised a reduction in his daily beatings and slightly less moldy bread. If he refused, the consequences would be far worse. Attempting to read his captor's mind, the boy found himself thwarted by a magical device that blocked his ability. Fearful for his life and the lives of the other demonkin, he reluctantly agreed to the deal. Determined to rebel, the boy sought to control the monsters for the purpose of revenge. However, as the barrier confining him shattered, he lost focus, allowing the monster to escape his control. When it turned against him, he realized the gravity of his failure. The other demonkin would likely face even harsher treatment because of him. Although he felt remorse for them, he found solace in the thought of dying without having caused anyone pain. He yearned for rebirth, hoping for a kinder life with a loving family and nourishing food. Closing his eyes, he prepared to embrace death. Before his end could come, Noor stepped in to defend him. Confused as to why someone from the kingdom would risk their life for him, the boy was overwhelmed when both he and Noor were hit by a heavy dose of poison from the frog. While Noor could have used his healing magic on himself, he chose to save the boy instead, continuing to fight even as the poison ravaged his body. Noor's confidence stemmed from a childhood experience after the death of his mother. One day, while gathering ingredients for dinner, he haphazardly mixed unknown herbs into his soup, unknowingly including a highly poisonous plant called dragon ruin. When he collapsed from the poison, he used his low heal ability to survive the night. The next morning, he rushed to the library to identify the herbs and was horrified to learn of his blunder. Nevertheless, he was determined not to let this mistake stop him from training. Despite the lingering effects of the poison, he pushed through the pain. After several trials, including a painful encounter with a venomous snake that he managed to kill, he found that he was inexplicably surviving these dangerous encounters. Testing his hypothesis, he sought out more poisonous creatures, hoping to develop some form of resistance. Though he occasionally overdosed and collapsed, he would always rise again, craving the taste of these hazardous meals. Now, as he battled the giant frog, Noor couldn't shake the thought of how delicious it would taste after he defeated it. The frog attempted to crush him, but he agilely backflipped out of the way. Initially, the frog's poison overwhelmed him, causing him to momentarily collapse. Yet, he had given his body enough time to adapt, gaining immunity to the poison's effects. Revitalized, Noor resumed the fight, skillfully parrying the frog's strikes. With each blow, he destroyed the creature's claws, shattering its teeth when it leaped at him. The frog, now desperate for survival, began charging up a massive poison blast. Noor recognized this as a last-ditch effort to overpower him, and he braced himself for the impending confrontation. To Noor, the giant frog's desperate attempt to unleash a poison blast was nothing more than an opportunity for a free meal. Before the creature could release its toxic payload, Noor used his sword to slam its mouth shut, causing the poison to build up until the frog exploded. As he wiped the remnants from his blade, he couldn't help but wonder how such a poisonous creature had made its way into the field in the first place. Yet it worked out for him. The more poison something contained, the tastier he believed it would be. Just then, he remembered the boy standing behind him. Turning around, he asked if the child was okay. The boy replied he was fine but looked sickly and suggested that if Noor wanted to be properly healed by Lin once they were done here, he should take care of himself. Curiosity piqued, Noor inquired what the boy was doing out in the field. Reluctantly, the boy admitted he had brought the frog here, fulfilling a promise to deliver it to the city. As the gears turned in Noor's mind, he connected the dots and concluded that the boy must be a frog farmer, hiding himself behind a barrier to protect his precious poisonous cargo. Guilt washed over Noor as he realized he had ruined the boy's meat delivery. He profusely apologized, offering to compensate the boy for the frog meat, even if it took him years. The boy reassured him that it wasn't necessary, it didn't matter to him. Intrigued, Noor pressed on, asking how a young child managed to bring such a massive frog this far. The boy hesitated before revealing that he had the ability to control monsters. Noor marveled at this revelation, thinking the boy must possess a remarkable skill, but the child clarified that it wasn't a skill, it was an ability he was born with. He further admitted he was demonkin. Anticipating hostility, the boy was surprised when Noor began to ponder all the things he could do with such powers, having animals help him in the fields, sending messages with birds, and never worrying about monster attacks at night. Noor expressed his wish to have that ability too, grinning as he did so. When the boy asked if Noor truly wasn't scared of him, Noor replied that he saw no reason to fear someone with such a useful ability. This unexpected affirmation made the boy break down in tears. He had never believed his life could hold such meaning. Noor, seeing so much of himself in the boy, was determined to lift his spirits. He assured him that he had a bright future ahead, recognizing that there must be extenuating circumstances behind the boy's low self-worth. At that moment, the others came rushing over to check on Noor. Lin insisted on healing him immediately, but Noor reassured her that he was perfectly fine. Lin couldn't believe he had withstood a hit from the Black Death Dragon. Its breath wasn't just poisonous, it was an extreme concentration of miasma capable of corrupting the very soil. How could Noor have survived such an assault? The only explanation that came to her mind was a technique she learned from the Saint Sovereign known as Sacred Spirit, a mastery of body and mind that could negate corruption and purify everything the user touched. It had taken the saint 40 years to perfect, yet Noor had achieved it in less than half that time without even realizing it. Turning to the boy, Noor asked Lin if she could heal him too, but the child shook his head, insisting he was unharmed. Lin, however, could immediately tell he was demonkin, and she hesitated. Noor, undeterred, hoped they could give the boy a ride in their carriage. Lin questioned what about the disaster caused by that monster. Noor acknowledged the unfortunate destruction of the field, but felt compelled to help the boy, especially since he had slain the poisonous frog the child had worked so hard to bring here. By the way, Noor recalled the boy's promise to deliver the frog and asked who exactly he promised. The boy admitted he wasn't sure, as he had never been given that information. Observing his state, Lin realized the boy had likely been a slave. While slavery was outlawed in the Kingdom of Clays, it was still prevalent in other lands. Lin gently asked if the boy remembered the way back to where he came from. The boy shook his head, revealing he had been blindfolded before being dropped off in the middle of nowhere and told to head in this direction. Lin now realized she may have misjudged the boy, so she asked if they could take Rolo with them on their journey. However, one major problem loomed over the idea demonkin were banned from entering Mithra entirely. If they tried to bring Rolo there, it could be seen as an act of hostility. Just then, a voice interrupted from behind them. A man stood there, surprised that Rolo had managed to survive. He noticed that Rolo had failed in his mission to deliver the frog, prompting Noor to ask if he was the one who ordered Rolo to do so. The man replied it wasn't him, he was simply hired to eliminate Rolo and facilitate the mission. When he asked Noor if he was the one who killed the frog, Noor confirmed, apologizing since he thought the frog was meant for consumption. The man dismissed the frog's significance, stating he was there to retrieve Rolo. Noor understood this to mean the man intended to pick up Rolo, but his intentions were far from innocent. In an instant, the man disappeared and reappeared behind the group, launching a surprise attack. Noor managed to parry the blow, but confusion washed over him as to why the man had attacked so suddenly. Realizing that Noor would be a challenging opponent, the man took a step back, calmly asking Noor if he would hand over Rolo without a fight. Rolo was apparently worth a considerable sum, but only as a corpse. Since Noor was clearly unwilling to let him kill Rolo, the man struck again. Noor struggled to grasp why the man wanted Rolo dead. The man explained that he could bring Rolo back alive, but his client would still kill him regardless. So he believed he was doing Rolo a favor by ending his life swiftly. Noor remained confused, prompting the man to give up on explanation and attempt to leap over Noor to attack Rolo. However, Noor kept up, knocking the assassin back and shattering his dagger in the process. Both Noor and the assassin moved at blinding speed, leaving Lin barely able to follow their movements. She tried to stay close to protect herself from the chaos. The assassin, growing increasingly frustrated with Noor's resilience, drew more daggers, launching multiple strikes at him. Noor deftly defended against each attack, pushing the assassin back. Realizing that Noor was a genuine obstacle to his mission, the assassin resolved to seriously attempt to kill him. He dashed forward with incredible speed, aiming to stab Noor in the face, but Noor once again managed to parry the blow, sending him flying backward. Once Noor regained his footing, he remarked on the incredible force the assassin could generate with such a small knife. The assassin, taken aback that Noor had blocked yet another of his attacks, considered him intriguing. He pulled out another dagger, dashing in again, trying to overwhelm Noor. Yet Noor stood his ground. However, with each passing moment, it became evident that Noor couldn't keep up with the assassin's relentless assault while also protecting Rolo. The pressure of the fight forced Lin to conjure a shield to keep herself safe from the escalating chaos. After a while, she recognized the assassin's fashion sense matched that of a former S-rank adventurer known as the deadman Zadu, a figure who had once walked into a meeting with all the sovereigns. Lin recalled the documents she had found about a target declared officially dead, despite never having seen anyone go after him. The sovereigns had suggested leaving that mission alone, fearing the challenge it posed. Zadu had become an S-rank adventurer at a young age, but his reckless use of power had turned him into a wanted man. Despite his past, he was too strong for any of them to confront, so they had decided to let him be as long as he didn't cause trouble within the kingdom. Gilbert was intrigued by Zadu's reputation, prompting a wizard to recount Zadu's history. By the age of 13, he had already mastered dwarven alchemy and killed his first dragon. His abilities became renowned across the lands, making him the apex of all heroes. Yet, without a moral compass, he had committed heinous acts, including the murder of 36 members of a merchant family. While there was a motion to strip Zadu of his adventurer's license, the threat he posed was too great for anyone to risk making an enemy of him. Ultimately, the decision was postponed, leaving Zadu without repercussions for his crimes. Zadu was known for accepting any job, regardless of its evil nature, driven solely by the promise of payment. He once obliterated an entire country at a client's request, wiping out their army and slaughtering the royal family. To prevent further casualties, the guild had pretended Zadu was already dead, hoping to deter any potential attackers. Back in the present, Zadu was fuming over losing yet another dagger, realizing he had nearly depleted his arsenal in the fight against Noor. Noor apologized for the damage to Zadu's daggers, but pointed out that the assassin was partly to blame for attacking him without warning. Zadu shrugged it off, more interested in the peculiar sword Noor wielded, which was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Deciding to play it safe, Zadu activated his trump card, tossing his ultimate weapon into the air. As it glowed red, a blinding flash of light erupted as unlimited blade works activated. Thousands of blades now pointed straight at Noor, and regardless of how many he managed to destroy, Zadu could simply create more. Noor fought valiantly to parry the onslaught, but the sheer number forced him to let a few strikes land in order to protect Rolo. Lin, witnessing the overwhelming chaos, felt the urge to help. However, she hesitated, reminding herself that her mission was to keep Lin safe, and that she shouldn't leave her side for any reason. After a moment of contemplation, Lin decided to help Noor. As he continued to struggle against the onslaught of countless blades, Noor realized he wouldn't be able to counter the incoming attacks. He braced himself for the inevitable stabbing, only to be surprised when Lin stepped in at the last second, blocking the blades with her shield. While her mission was to protect Lin, she also recognized Noor's strength and the advantage he brought to their survival. Determined not to let him die, she used some of her shields to strike at Zadu, impressing Noor, but he noted that none of her attacks seemed to reach him as Zadu deftly evaded them. Lin then asked Noor for assistance, explaining that while she could handle defense, she lacked the speed to take down Zadu, which is why she needed his help. Although Noor was uncertain about his ability to deal with blades moving so quickly, he recalled that he had hit birds that were even faster. With a glimmer of hope, he picked up a broken claw from the frog, telling Lin he had an idea. On his signal, he instructed her to drop her shield. When Noor gave the cue, Lin lowered some of her shields, providing him with a clear path to attack. Armed with the claw fragments, Noor activated his physical enhancement and stone throw abilities, transforming his arm into an anti-aircraft missile launcher. With precision, he destroyed all the incoming blades, proving to be a formidable force. As he reloaded for another round, he asked Lin to drop her shield again, continuing to dismantle Zadu's arsenal. They were making steady progress. However, while Lin was distracted, Zadu crept up behind her, nearly stabbing her in the eye. At the last moment, Noor managed to parry the attack, breaking yet another one of Zadu's daggers. Zadu couldn't believe Noor reacted to his assault so swiftly and shattered a dagger made of adamantite. Although Noor apologized for the destruction of such a valuable weapon, Zadu dismissed the apology, insisting he needed compensation for his lost daggers. Frustrated, Zadu launched another attack, but once again, Noor successfully blocked and broke another dagger. Curious, Zadu questioned how Noor managed to see through all his attacks, but Noor could only say he instinctively knew how to respond. Zadu felt there had to be a secret behind Noor's power, but for now, he decided to retreat, knowing that replacing the broken blades would require significant effort. He mentioned he was also considering heading to the kingdom, having heard there was something interesting happening there, but he paused, unsure of the details. Zadu called out to Rolo, telling him he was fortunate Noor was present since, regardless of what Zadu attempted, Noor was always one step ahead. Even when he tried one last sneak attack, Noor effortlessly blocked it. Realizing he wouldn't accomplish his mission with Noor around, Zadu stepped back and teleported away. Noor sighed in relief at Zadu's departure, but Lin expressed concerns about the events unfolding in the capital. Noor asked if she wanted to return there, sensing her curiosity about what was happening. Yet, as soon as he mentioned the royal capital, Rolo began to shiver in fear. He recounted his task of transporting the Black Death Dragon and how he overheard his captors discussing a terrifying monster destined for the capital one that would dwarf the Black Death Dragon. Hearing this, Lin insisted they hurry back to the capital. Realizing the situation was more dire than she had anticipated, she asked Noor if he would accompany her, and he agreed, but Lin noted that they couldn't go just yet. She was about to explain her orders from Rain when Lin revealed she already knew Rain had advised her to escape with Lin if anything threatened the capital. Although Lin hadn't heard it from him directly, she understood Rain's instincts well. She couldn't accept a plan that required her to flee while leaving the kingdom in danger, echoing the fate of the demon folk when their homeland was destroyed. Lin was determined to take action, and Noor eventually agreed to return, wanting Lin to promise she wouldn't leave his side. Rolo felt partially responsible for the incident, expressing his desire to help resolve the crisis. Noor patted Rolo on the head, acknowledging his sense of responsibility. Lin noticed a profound look on Noor's face, mistaking it for deep self-reflection, when in reality he was regretting missing the chance to taste the poison frog. Meanwhile, the city lay in ruins, but thanks to the efforts of the 6 sovereigns, they managed to hold their ground. Rain, however, faced uncertainty about where the next attack would come from. It could be from the north, south, or even above. Although reports indicated no sightings of flying beasts, Rain sensed something amiss in the sky. Casting an uncover spell, he was horrified to discover a dragon looming over the city, no ordinary dragon, but a dragon of Calamity. This dragon was none other than the one from Nora's storybook, the legendary dragon slayer who had vanquished the evil dragon terrorizing the lands. Noor was so captivated by the thought of slaying a dragon that he boldly declared he wanted to take one down himself. But his father, ever the pragmatist, reminded him that such a feat was no easy task. Dragons, some of which had existed for thousands of years, could reduce mountains to rubble or obliterate entire continents with a single sweep of their might. Back in the present, as Noor and the others journeyed toward the capital, he sensed something ominous in the air. "There's a monster nearby," he warned, but the others dismissed his unease, unable to perceive what he could. Just as he pointed toward the source of his concern, the Dragon of Calamity emerged, casting a shadow over the city and inciting chaos among the populace. Rain, observing from a distance, couldn't fathom the Empire's recklessness in unleashing such a creature, especially when it had lain dormant for 150 years well past its hibernation period. Yet, here it was, roused from its slumber and poised to wreak havoc on the kingdom. He ordered the citizens taking shelter in the capital to evacuate immediately. However, from the rooftops, the Bee's sovereign detected magic being wielded to block the evacuation routes, a strategic move to keep the sovereigns occupied, preventing them from uniting against the dragon. The king gazed out of his window as doom approached, with Gilbert urging him to evacuate as well. But the king remained steadfast, prioritizing his duty to protect the kingdom over his own safety. Ames, witnessing the dragon's ominous flight over the city, realized the total destruction it would bring. While evacuation efforts must have begun, Lin knew her father would likely sacrifice himself to shield the citizens. Even though no one, not even the king, stood a chance against such a dragon, the weight of despair settled on her. Both her family and her kingdom were in peril. Noor, however, was fascinated. It was his first real encounter with a dragon. He turned to Lin and asked if her father and brother were still in the capital. Lin was certain they would remain behind to ensure the safety of their people, but the distance from the kingdom posed a grave concern. Noor, confident in his abilities, insisted he could make it if he ran. Lin was shocked the capital was still nearly 100 kilometers away, and destruction loomed only moments away. Resolute, Noor suggested they employ the same tactic they had used against the goblins in the forest. He asked Lin to unleash the strongest wind blast she could muster. He owed it to the people of the city to help Rain and the king escape, and seeing Noor's determination, Lin decided to trust him. Meanwhile, the king reflected on his confrontation with the emperor, who had threatened to crush the kingdom if he didn't surrender the Dungeon of the Lost. Despite the emperor's claims that such power was wasted in the king's hands, the king had refused, believing it was dangerous to meddle with forces beyond their control. But now, as he faced the impending doom of the dragon, he regretted underestimating the emperor's ruthlessness. In his heart, he wondered if Lin had made it to safety. He felt unworthy of being king, better suited for the battlefield. With a heavy heart, he apologized to his people for the calamity that had befallen them, vowing to take out one of the dragon's eyes before he fell. Back with Noor and Lin, she utilized her divine shield to create a cylindrical focus for Lin's wind blast. As Noor took his position, Lin prepared to cast every barrier she knew to ensure the spell's full power was harnessed. Doubts crept into Noor's mind as he observed the fierce energy swirling around him, but it was too late. Lin unleashed the six-fold wind blast, propelling Noor toward the capital at breakneck speed. Meanwhile, the dragon of Calamity soared towards the king, charging its dragon's breath, the same inferno that had seared continents centuries ago. Realizing his impending demise, the king drew his sword, the blast sword, channeling all his mana into one final, powerful strike. Yet, just as he was about to unleash it, Noor appeared out of nowhere, parrying the dragon's attack, redirecting its breath into the sky and knocking it to the ground. The dragon, disoriented, had no idea what had interrupted its assault. Regaining consciousness, it spotted Noor and understood he was the source of its misfortune. Attempting to crush him with its tail, Noor skillfully parried the strike again, sending the dragon crashing down. Despite the near-death experience from Lin's initial blast, Noor had regained his footing and leaped over the castle walls, ready to confront the Elder Dragon. Lin and An arrived at the capital, intent on rescuing the king while Noor occupied the dragon. Suddenly, a massive chunk of debris hurtled towards them, causing Lin to tumble, and managed to shield her just in time, prompting her to thank him for saving her life. But as they looked forward, several goblin emperors emerged, charging toward them. Though smaller than the one Noor had battled in the forest, these goblin emperors were still formidable foes. Determined, Lin reminded herself to think like Noor, seeing them as merely regular goblins, and understood her intent and realized the goblin emperors weren't nearly as threatening compared to the elder dragon. As the goblins charged, Lin cast an ice spell, but the goblin's speed thwarted her efforts. Rolo, recognizing the urgency, intervened by using his powers to freeze the goblins in their tracks. Seizing the moment, Lin unleashed her ice magic to encase them completely while summoned a divine sword, slicing through them with precision. With that, they successfully defeated the goblin emperors, leaving Lin impressed by In's skill. Not only was she worthy of the title Divine Shield, but she also wielded the power to cut down any foe with her divine sword. And Rolo's ability to command the goblin emperors with mere words showcased the incredible potential of a boy from the demon folk. As the dust settled from the clash between Noor and the mighty dragon of Calamity, an unexpected tension filled the air. The dragon, once a proud beast, grappled with a harsh reality. This tiny human had parried its every attack, breaking its indestructible claws like mere twigs. Noor, however, remained unfazed. The thrill of battle pulsed through him, invigorated by the sight of his unscathed sword, a testament to his surprising strength. Yet the dragon of Calamity, wounded in pride, took to the skies, gathering energy for its devastating breath attack, a force that could obliterate anything in its path. But Noor stood firm, ready to parry what could only be described as a cataclysmic assault. With a calculated swing, he deflected the dragon's breath, stunning all present. Rolo, witnessing the dragon's growing frustration, sensed a shift, a humbling realization that this tiny warrior might just be stronger than the beast itself. Defeated and with its pride shattered, the dragon conceded, collapsing before Noor, who hesitated. The stories of heroes slaying dragons for glory echoed in his mind, yet compassion won out. Rather than deliver a fatal blow, he chose mercy, sparking disbelief among his companions. Rather than a fatal blow, Noor saw a chance to command respect, prompting Rolo to negotiate the creature's retreat. In a surprising twist, the dragon acknowledged Noor as its master, ready to obey. But just as victory seemed assured, disaster loomed on the horizon. From the shadows, the Emperor emerged, a puppet master eager to reclaim control. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a torrent of troops equipped with devastating weapons, intent on finishing what the dragon had started. As Randa pleaded waited for reason. The Emperor's wrath silenced logic, revealing a tyrant driven by vengeance. Meanwhile, Noor's heart raced as he led his friends toward the crash site, hoping against hope that the dragon had survived. But lurking in the shadows, the Emperor's forces spotted them, zeroing in on the divine shield. As the ominous hum of a laser beam filled the air, time seemed to freeze. Lin grasped Rolo's hand, desperate to escape, but instead paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of the threat, the looming blast racing toward them. Noor instinctively stepped in front of Ian, parrying the energy beam with a swift motion. The shockwave rippled through the air, sending debris flying, but thanks to Noor's quick reflexes, everyone remained unscathed. The Emperor, dumbfounded, struggled to comprehend how a mere human could block the blast from his ray gun. The soldier in charge, sensing the Emperor's frustration, suggested a malfunction in the magic condenser, a theory the Emperor reluctantly accepted as he ordered his troops to prepare for another shot. Relieved yet confused, Noor stood amidst the chaos, contemplating the nature of the weapon fired at them and the immense Imperial army gathered below, at least 10,000 soldiers. The odds were stacked against them, and realized there was little they could do to thwart the Emperor's advance. She proposed a strategic retreat, and though Lin agreed, she wanted to know Noor's plan. Noor's expression betrayed his thoughts. Deep down, he felt cornered, contemplating escape, but Lin misread his determination as a desire to stay and fight. Suddenly, En spotted the Empire reloading their weapons, prompting her to raise a protective shield just in time to deflect incoming blasts. The Emperor, growing impatient with the difficulty of dispatching Un, was advised to withdraw for safety. Back in the mountains, Noor recognized their predicament. Unless they acted swiftly, they would remain pinned down indefinitely. He formulated a plan. He would divert the army's attention, allowing the others to escape. Though he doubted his fighting skills, he was well versed in the art of evasion. Lin, understanding the stakes, offered her support. She prepared to propel him into the fray using a powerful wind blast. Noor, however, was unprepared for the impact, hastily activating his physical enhancement as he ran toward the cliff's edge. The blast shot him forward, momentarily blinding him, but he quickly regained his focus, soaring beneath En's shield. As he faced a barrage of lasers from the Imperial army, Noor relied on his parrying skills, deflecting each attack with newfound confidence. His momentum drove him straight into the ranks of soldiers, and as he swung his sword, weapons flew from their grips. With each strike, Noor disarmed them, sending swords and shields spiraling into the air. The Emperor watched in disbelief as his soldiers became targets of their own discarded weapons. Noor's unexpected onslaught continued, leaving chaos in his wake as he parried, dodged, and carried, and countered. The remaining soldiers stood stunned, and as their lost arms fell from the sky, panic spread like wildfire among their ranks. Noor pressed on, determined to confront the Emperor directly. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Emperor connected the dots. This was the same individual he'd observed from afar, and in mere moments he had decimated half his forces. Fear crept into his heart as Noor approached. A smile etched on his face, sending a chill down the Emperor's spine. In a panic, the Emperor recalled the durability of his armor, finding solace in its orichalcum composition. But that comfort shattered as he watched Noor vault past him, parrying the ray guns aimed at the group, redirecting them back toward their source. The Emperor's composure crumbled as he realized the implications. His investments in technology now threatened to be his downfall. Noor dashed back to the Emperor, planting his sword into the ground before him. The Emperor recognized the blade as the one displayed in the Kingdom of Clay's throne room, its weight a symbol of his adversary's strength. Noor wielded it effortlessly, a sign of his overwhelming power. The Emperor's bravado evaporated. He understood he faced someone far beyond his capabilities. As Noor loomed over him, his demeanor shifting from playful to menacing, the Emperor's fear reached its peak. The mere thought of enduring Noor's wrath sent him into a panic, and in that moment he lost control, a chill of dread overwhelming him. He was no longer a conqueror but a cornered beast, and the realization filled him with sheer terror. The Emperor, overwhelmed by fear, scrambled to his feet and fled for his life, the terror of Noor engraved deep within his soul. He collapsed to his knees, surrounded by the remaining Imperial soldiers. His body had finally reached its limits. The toll of the battle became too much to bear. Blood trickled from his mouth as he succumbed to the darkness, his final thoughts urging Lin, En, and Rolo to escape without him. Just as he prepared for the worst, a voice echoed across the battlefield, shouting Shooty Star. Moments later, a torrential rain of arrows descended from the sky. Noor remembered this technique. It was one he had seen the Bee Sovereign wielding during his training. The Spear Sovereign Gilbert joined the fray, accompanied by the Sword Sovereign, who expressed gratitude to Noor for holding off the army thus far. But with the battle nearing its end, he couldn't stand idly by, knowing he bore the title of Sovereign. As they leaped into action, the Sword Sovereign unleashed a flurry of slashes, ensuring that no enemy would survive. Noor watched in awe, mesmerized by the masterful display of swordsmanship. The Sword Sovereign's technique was the embodiment of everything he had longed to master. Yet amidst the slaughter, the Saint Sovereign expressed his discontent, reminding the Sword Sovereign that he had asked for restraint. Oaken insisted that given the army's size, non-lethal methods weren't feasible. The Saint, maintaining his lighthearted demeanor, quipped about the challenges of interrogating corpses. If they're alive, I can just heal them and torture them until they crack, he joked, though his comment held a hint of seriousness. With reinforcements on the way, he instructed Oken to prepare. Raising his hand, Oken cast a binding spell, immobilizing the Imperial soldiers. The warriors charged in, overwhelmed by the exhilarating chaos of battle. As the conflict waned, Oken crafted a stone prison to contain the surviving soldiers. The Saint and his team of healers would now take over, preparing to extract valuable information from the captives. Noor suddenly realized that all the sovereigns present were his instructors from childhood, and a wave of nostalgia washed over him as the battle came to an end. Lin rushed to Noor's side, eager to heal his exhaustion. After a moment of treatment, he proclaimed he felt much better, though hunger gnawed at him. The Saint finished his interrogation, confirming that the forces of the Empire had been thoroughly subdued, but the Emperor had managed to escape amidst the chaos. Wellen couldn't believe the audacity of a man so old, confident enough to personally appear on the battlefield. Noor, recalling the gold-clad figure, confirmed the Emperor's retreat, but time was against them unless they could somehow reach the border in time. Pursuing him seemed impossible. Yet an idea sparked within Noor. If the dragon remained alive, there might be a chance to catch up. They hurried to the dragon's crash site, where the healer Say was eagerly preparing to revive the majestic beast. As he worked, Say commented on Noor's growth since their last encounter, while Oken voiced his concerns about reviving the dragon. Dragons were powerful and unpredictable, the potential danger loomed large in his mind. Noor reassured everyone that there was nothing to worry about. The dragon was on their side now. Unaware that the dragon considered him its master, he turned to Rolo, asking him to communicate with the beast. Enan questioned Rolo's confidence in controlling the dragon, and Rolo hesitantly admitted he had no control at all. This revelation sent a wave of worry through Oken. Just then, the dragon stirred, awakening with a thunderous roar that sent vibrations through the air. Noor sensed the anger radiating from it. Although he couldn't fully comprehend the dragon's feelings, his upbringing among animals allowed him to pick up on its vengeful desire for retribution. He declared that the dragon wanted to leave immediately and urged everyone to climb onto its back. To his surprise, Lin insisted on joining them. Lin argued that Rolo needed to come along for communication, and she and An had to serve as his guards. When she asked Noor if he was going too, he hesitated. While he had suggested riding the dragon, his fear of heights held him back. However, recognizing the awkwardness of not going after proposing the idea, he reluctantly agreed. Say the healer emphasized the need to ensure the dragon's proper healing and offered to accompany them. Karu, the thief sovereign, also volunteered his assistance, stating that they would need his concealment skills to stay hidden until they reached their target. Bone expressed a desire to join, but the Saint reminded him he was in charge of maintaining the rock prison and couldn't ride along. At that moment, Rain and the king arrived, surprising everyone. Rain expressed his wish to join them, stating they would need a royal negotiator when confronting the Emperor. Lin felt relieved to see them both unharmed. Once everyone had climbed aboard the dragon, the king appointed Rain to make any tough decisions that might arise and apologized to Noor for constantly relying on him. He asked Noor to protect everyone while they were out there. Noor promised to keep everyone safe, allowing the king to relax as they handled the situation. As the dragon took to the skies, soaring high above the clouds, the sword and shield sovereigns marveled at Noor's growth. The sword sovereign held back his words, realizing that Noor had never needed a teacher like him. Noor had achieved such strength through his own dedication, prompting the sword sovereign to reconsider his own complacency. Meanwhile, Noor and his companions searched for signs of the Emperor, but luck evaded them. The looming bridge signified they were entering the Empire's territory, and uncertainty clouded their path. Should they continue the pursuit or turn back? Rain, now in charge, faced their indecision. But before he could respond, Lin spotted the Emperor racing across the bridge, panic evident on his face. They had found him, but he was nearing the Imperial fortress and time was short. Karu's concealment magic was a double-edged sword. If they revealed themselves, they would be in for a fierce battle. Rain acknowledged the risks, but was adamant about not letting the Emperor escape after the chaos he had wrought upon the kingdom. If given the chance, the Empire could regroup and launch another attack, and Rain would not allow that. Eager to take action, and turned to Lin for permission to unleash devastation on the fortress. Normally hesitant to unleash her full power, her anger towards the Empire for threatening her home, and Lin compelled her to act decisively. Rain granted her permission, and An summoned a divine sword, unleashing a barrage of slashes that dismantled the fortress's defenses. With their path now clear, they were free to act. Rain and Lin prepared for their assault on the Empire, ensuring everyone was ready. Lin expressed confidence, believing their strength would see them through. However, unbeknownst to her, Noor had passed out mid-flight, paralyzed by fear of heights. As the Emperor finally reached the fortress, a wave of relief washed over him, momentarily replacing his terror with anger. Memories of his humiliation fueled his rage as he walked past his officials, who questioned his disheveled appearance. Before he could lay blame on his soldiers for their failure, an official noticed something outside the window. The Emperor's heart dropped as he looked up, dread flooding his senses. The Dragon of Calamity was barreling toward the Empire. Panic-stricken, He wondered how it was still alive after the laser beam should have annihilated it. Realization struck him Saint S must have revived it. But even if they had healed the dragon, how could they control it without a master? The Emperor turned to his officials, demanding to know where the beast tamer he had hired was. The official informed him that Master LWD had already left the Empire, leading the Emperor to believe that LWD hated him. Enraged, the Emperor threw a tantrum, and when Randus tried to calm him down, the Emperor snapped, berating Randus for being useless and demanding he do something to save the Empire. Randus, visibly fed up with the Emperor's antics, walked away in silence. The Emperor then ordered his officials to prepare Kronos, intending to use its powerful weaponry to blast the dragon out of the sky. The officials cautioned against it, reminding him that Kronos was still in the testing phase, and its firing would likely destroy a significant part of the city. The Emperor dismissed their concerns, violently kicking one of them across the room. He insisted that they had little choice. The dragon would annihilate the city if they did nothing. He ordered them to disregard collateral damage and utilize the precise targeting system of Kronos to ensure accuracy. As the officials complied, the city plunged into darkness, Kronos locking onto the dragon's mana signature. The Emperor, brimming with confidence, believed this was the strongest weapon the Empire had ever developed. But as the laser was fired, something unexpected happened. A force from the dragon's head parried the blast, causing it to veer off course. In disbelief, the Emperor realized that the redirected laser beams were now targeting the Empire's mana generators. Without those, the Empire would be completely vulnerable. Blaming the officials for the misfire, the Emperor found himself abandoned as they all decided they'd had enough, quitting on the spot. Alone, he watched in horror as the foundation of his empire erupted into flames. Meanwhile, Noor and the others were approaching the Empire on the dragon's back when Noor sensed an incoming threat. This laser beam was far stronger than the last, and there was no time to dodge it. In a split second, Noor rushed out in front and successfully parried the blast, but his lack of flight caused him to crash into the Emperor's castle. Inside, the Emperor was surrounded by Randus and a few other knights who were equally tired of his leadership. The Emperor questioned Randus's intentions, but Randus explained that to save the Empire, he needed to kill the Emperor. Desperate for salvation, the Emperor cried out for help, but none remained willing to follow his orders. Just as Randus was about to deliver the fatal blow, Noor crashed through the ceiling, unexpectedly landing in the Emperor's throne room. Surprised by his luck, Noor noted the chaotic situation and the knights poised to execute the Emperor. Randus raised his sword and asked if Noor intended to protect the Emperor. Noor, indifferent to the Emperor's fate, insisted that it wasn't right for the knights to kill him. One knight attempted to shoot the Emperor, but Noor skillfully parried the shot, gently placing the Emperor's head on the ground to avoid injury. The knights recognized Noor's skill and decided to attack him simultaneously, but he effortlessly parried their strikes. Randus declared that the Emperor had doomed the country and needed to atone for his actions. One knight threw a bomb toward the Emperor in a last-ditch effort to execute him, but Noor foresaw the attack and gently kicked the Emperor out of harm's way. The Emperor dangled perilously from the wall as Noor questioned why the knights were trying to kill him. One knight pointed out that Noor had caused more damage to the Emperor than they had, but Randus insisted the Emperor needed to die. Randus threw several more bombs, but Noor was ahead of the game again, grabbing the Emperor's leg and carefully setting him down. Noor argued that since the Emperor was old, it would be more fitting to imprison him to let him die of natural causes. Randus disagreed, citing the imminent invasion by their enemies and insisting that the Emperor must die immediately to prove they would not fight any longer. Suddenly, a voice interjected, stating that killing the Emperor wouldn't be necessary. Rain had arrived with the others, thanking Noor for his help and asserting that he would take over from there. He asked Lin to heal Noor, who was likely injured from his fall, and together they left the throne room, allowing Rain to handle the situation. Rain addressed the knights, reassuring them that they had no intention of harming them, but the Emperor would not be so fortunate. The Emperor pleaded for mercy, and surprisingly, Rain agreed to spare him, but only under specific conditions. Due to the Emperor's actions, innocent people had suffered, some crushed under rubble or burned alive. If the Emperor was willing to endure the same suffering he had inflicted, Rain would consider forgiveness and begin peace talks to address reparations. He asked if anyone objected to this plan, but no one stood by the Emperor. It was agreed that he would have to experience the same pain. The Emperor was bewildered, unable to fathom how he could survive such torment. Rain assured him that no matter how many times he was injured, S would be there to patch him up, and if he passed out from pain, Karoo would ensure he remained conscious. The Emperor, now terrified, wet himself in fear as Rain clarified that he didn't enjoy torturing people but needed the Emperor to fully grasp the pain he had caused. Rain pointed out that he was being lenient by allowing the Emperor to live, all while the fate of his empire hung in the balance. Nora had just finished being healed by Lin and was feeling much better, but as he looked out at the Empire, guilt washed over him for the damage he had caused when deflecting the laser. Lin reassured him, urging him not to dwell on it. He had acted to protect them, and thankfully, no one had died. The lasers had only struck the Empire's mana generators, which were located in areas unoccupied due to their high mana concentration. However, the destruction would still significantly impact the lives of the people. Just then, Rain, Karu, and S returned, bringing news of an agreement both the Empire and the Kingdom would focus on post-war reconstruction. Noor was surprised that the war had already come to an end, having barely started. Curious about the Emperor's fate, he asked what had happened. Rain explained that the Emperor had abdicated the throne, with his grandchild likely to be appointed as the new ruler. However, the child was only 10 years old, so a guardian would be appointed to rule in the interim. It had been decided that the knights would oversee the Empire until the child was old enough to take on the responsibilities. As the knights approached, Randus was the first to apologize for his earlier attack on Noor. He expressed his willingness to make amends, but Noor, dismissing the matter, reassured him there was no need to worry. Relieved, Randus vowed that if Noor ever needed help, he and the other knights would do everything they could to assist. Noor responded that there was no need for such measures, and that he felt he should be the one apologizing for the damage done to the city. Randus insisted that Noor should not feel guilty, as the destruction was a direct result of the former emperor's actions. Moreover, there had been no reports of casualties from the blasts. Noor still offered to help in any way possible, even if it was just clearing away rubble. Unfortunately, the dragon had grown bored, prompting everyone to mount its back and fly back to the kingdom, though Noor still harbored a dislike for flying. Upon their return, they were greeted by the king, who apologized for leaving Rain to handle the negotiations alone. He expressed his desire to be filled in on the details later, but first needed to extend his gratitude to their savior. Rain confirmed that Noor had almost single-handedly saved the entire capital and insisted that he deserved a fitting reward. However, Noor quickly interrupted, stating he didn't need any reward. Understanding Noor's humility, the king pressed on, emphasizing that saving an entire country warranted some form of gratitude. Noor acknowledged the norm of receiving rewards in such situations, but struggled to think of anything he truly wanted. Then he looked down at Rolo and made his request known. He asked the king to take care of Rolo, a demon folk child abandoned without a home. Noor wanted Rolo to live in the capital as a regular citizen. Although Noor had considered taking Rolo and himself, he believed the child would be better off cared for by a wealthy family. He suggested that if the king could provide land and a house for Rolo, it would ensure his well-being. The king paused, realizing that while he understood Noor's request, it posed a dilemma. The holy theocracy of Maria had labeled all demon folk as enemies, so accepting Rolo as a citizen could strain diplomatic relations. As the king was about to ask for a different request, Noor interjected, insisting he only sought Rolo's security. He urged the king to redirect any resources intended for him toward rebuilding the kingdom instead. Stunned by Noor's persistence, the king couldn't help but laugh, finding admiration in the young man's resolve. Rolo looked up at Noor, memories flooding back to the moment he was nearly killed by the frog dragon. He had longed for a better life, free from suffering, where he could enjoy simple pleasures like delicious food. Never had he imagined that his dream would come true. Later, Rolo awoke in a warm bed, sitting down at a dinner table with Ants, who told him he would be living with her for the time being. Rolo was initially speechless, but Ants encouraged him to eat before his food got cold. Surprised, Rolo had never anticipated that all of this was for him. This was his first taste of non-rotten food, and as he took his first bite, tears welled in his eyes. He smiled and exclaimed how delicious it was. While reconstruction and rescue efforts continued, Noor strolled through the neighborhood he often cleaned, horrified by the extensive damage. He wondered if the people who lived there had managed to escape. As he approached the guild, he was relieved to see that the building still stood. Just as he was about to take another step, he noticed something under his foot, the guild's emblem. For the first time, he truly examined it and spotted the drawing of an adventurer, a reminder of the hope that still lingered amidst the devastation. As Noor wandered through the neighborhood, memories flooded back from his past. He recalled how he had struggled to register as an adventurer, failing to learn more than basic skills after 3 months in each of the training schools. It was hard to believe that it had been nearly 15 years since he had last seen his instructors. Back then, when he first attended the swordsman training school, he had eagerly met with the sword sovereign, expressing his desire to become a swordsman. The sword sovereign had asked if he had permission to attend, and with excitement, Noor had pulled out the permission slip he received from the guild. Although Noor was younger than most students, the sword sovereign agreed to train him, provided he was prepared for the grueling regimen. On the first day, the sword sovereign had his students swinging their swords until late into the night, pushing them to exhaustion. As he walked past Noor, the sword sovereign thought he wouldn't last more than 3 days, given how worn out he looked after just one. But to his surprise, 10 days passed, and Noor continued to persevere, showing no signs of slowing down. Eventually, it was time for their first training exercise. The sword sovereign had set up a massive wrecking ball for the students to parry. The first student jumped out of the way, giving up instantly. When it was Noor's turn, he stepped up, unwavering. He parried the wrecking ball with all his strength, but the impact broke his shoulder, causing him to drop his sword. The sword sovereign reminded him that a true swordsman must never lose grip of their sword, even when wounded. Despite the pain, Noor powered through, picking up his sword with his other arm, ready to face the wrecking ball once more. It was in this moment that the sword sovereign realized Noor possessed immense potential. A short while later, Noor encountered the Sword Sovereign in the halls and inquired about learning a sword skill. The Sword Sovereign explained that the skills he would learn were beyond his control, but Noor insisted he wanted to see a demonstration. Reluctantly, the Sword Sovereign agreed, and they headed outside. With a wave of his hand, a dozen leaves were sent flying into the air, which the Sword Sovereign then cut with incredible precision. Noor was awestruck, barely able to comprehend the speed of the display. The Sword Sovereign had expected this reaction, as even he struggled to follow the movements of his own skill. But to his surprise, Noor was able to track a significant portion of the movements, igniting the Sword Sovereign's belief that Noor might one day surpass him in ability. However, as days turned to months, Noor trained diligently. Although he had mastered parrying, he could not learn any other skills. The Sword Sovereign, recognizing Noor's incredible potential, ultimately concluded that swordsmanship was not meant for him. At the end of the 3-month training period, he advised Noor to choose a different path for his own good. Taking the advice to heart, Noor sought training from the Shield Sovereign. Upon arrival, Noor stood out among the other students, looking at a place. The Shield Sovereign questioned his commitment, warning him that the training would be challenging. But Noor was determined to become an adventurer, no matter the difficulty. Impressed by his resolve, the Shield Sovereign decided to give him a chance, albeit with concern for Noor's safety. The training was intense, involving boulders thrown at the students, which they had to block with their bare bodies. To everyone's astonishment, Noor handled it better than expected. But then, disaster struck. A massive section of the cliffside collapsed, heading straight for him. The Shield Sovereign leaped in to save him, effortlessly crushing the rock. Yet he was taken aback to see Noor standing his ground, prepared to block the rock with his body, fearless of the consequences. The Shield Sovereign was astounded by Noor's courage and grit, believing he could train him to become an invincible shield. However, after 3 months of rigorous training, Noor had yet to acquire any useful skills, aside from enhancing his physical strength. The Shield Sovereign, knowing how hard Noor had worked, could not allow him to continue without results. This led Noor to the Bow Sovereign's training school. Initially reluctant, the Bow Sovereign decided to give Noor a chance. She handed him a stone and instructed him to throw it at a stick hanging under a tree, not expecting him to succeed. To her disbelief, Noor hit the target on his first try. Skeptical, she had him try again, and he hit it again with ease. Sensing trouble ahead, she reluctantly allowed him to join her other students, though he only threw stones at a shield. Confused about his practice, Noor asked why he was only throwing stones when he wished to learn how to use a bow. The Bow Sovereign eventually relented, allowing him a practice bow. Noor was excited, but when the time came to use it, his grip was so strong that he crushed the bow with a single squeeze. Frustrated, the Bow Sovereign presented him with another bow, only for Noor to break that one too. Sighing, she handed him her personal bow, convinced it would withstand his strength. However, even that bow succumbed to his grip, forcing her to concede and tell him to stick to throwing stones for now. As Noor returned to throwing stones, the Bow Sovereign couldn't help but ask where he had learned to throw with such accuracy, intrigued by his remarkable talent. Noor responded to the Bow Sovereign that he had never been taught how to throw stones, it was simply how he hunted birds at home. He often targeted the Thunder Flash bird, known for its speed and agility, making it difficult even for seasoned hunters to catch. This revelation impressed the Bow Sovereign, who began to question whether Noor really needed training here at all. At the end of the 3-month training period, the Bow Sovereign informed Noor that there was nothing more for him to learn in archery. Noor insisted that he hadn't been given a chance to learn bow skills, but she reminded him that he could barely hold a bow without breaking it. She concluded that his stone throwing skills were impressive enough to outclass most bowmen. Determined to continue his training, Noor approached the Thief Sovereign. By this time, Carolyn had already heard about Noor's tenacity and readily accepted him as a student. He assigned Noor his first task, sneaking through a dark hallway without making a sound. To Carolyn's surprise, Noor navigated the obstacles better than expected, although he still couldn't sneak up on him undetected. The next exercise involved crossing a trap-filled hallway to reach a treasure chest. While other students cautiously disarmed the traps, Noor took a different approach and sprinted across the hallway. He triggered every trap along the way, but easily handled the chaos, leaving Carolyn astonished. However, he reminded Noor that the exercise was intended to teach stealth, not recklessness. At the end of the training period, Carolyn noted Noor's exceptional situational awareness. He suggested that Noor had the potential to become a spy, acknowledging his stamina and diligence. He even offered Noor a position in the capital's intelligence agency if he ever chose to abandon the path of an adventurer. Next, Noor sought to learn magic from Oaken, who found it intriguing that Noor wanted to train at such a young age, especially with an age requirement of 15. When Noor presented his guild permit and explained his training journey, Oaken agreed to give him a chance. Unfortunately, after 2 months of trying, Noor still couldn't wield any magic. Oaken suspected that Noor might not have the innate mana needed, suggesting the only solution was to place him in a mana resonance pod. Noor was willing to do whatever it took, so Oaken cautioned him to exit the pod if it became too intense, as extended exposure could be dangerous. Days passed without Noor coming out, causing Oaken to panic. He rushed to the pod, fearing the worst, only to find Noor meditating. When Noor kicked him out, he claimed he was close to a breakthrough. After a month in the pod, Noor finally cast a tiny flame spell. Oken was astonished, considering Noor had entered without any mana. When Noor managed to cast a second tiny flame, Oken was shocked to see him dual casting a feat that took Oken 50 years to master. Despite this achievement, Oken felt disheartened this talent wouldn't aid Noor in becoming an adventurer. Noor's quest eventually led him to S's training school, where he requested training. S refused, stating that only those who had undergone a rite of passage at birth were allowed to train there. Unfazed, Noor declared he wouldn't leave until S agreed to train him. S, thinking he was bluffing, walked away, but days later, Noor remained, appearing willing to endure the cold. Eventually, Noor collapsed, prompting S to relent and allow him to participate in the training. However, S warned him that there was no guarantee he would learn anything. By the end of the training period, Noor had surprisingly managed to learn the low heel skill. S found it unbelievable, as this skill was typically impossible to learn without the rite of passage. Despite achieving the impossible, Noor felt disappointed when he learned the skill wasn't recognized by the Adventurers Guild. Days later, S received word that Noor had disappeared from the capital. Concerned, he convened a meeting with the other sovereigns. They agreed that Noor was a gifted boy, and after sharing stories of his achievements, they concluded that he would inevitably become a great man if they trained him together. United, they set out to find Noor. Back in the present, Noor entered the guild to return a sign to the guild master. The guild master expressed relief to see him alive and well, unaware of Noor's heroic role in saving the city. He had a job for Noor, given the extensive reconstruction needed in the city. Noor anticipated this and promptly joined the reconstruction efforts outside. The next morning, while helping with the restoration, he spotted Lin distributing provisions. As soon as she saw him, she rushed over to thank him for his assistance during the previous day's efforts. Noticing that Noor looked hungry, she offered him a loaf of bread and cautioned him not to overexert himself. After she returned to her duties, Noor felt grateful for her kindness. Now, with something to eat, Noor felt revitalized. He raised his sword, admiring its sturdy craftsmanship and reflecting on how it had served him well. Although he thought it would be better used in the hands of a true adventurer, he resolved to wield it for the benefit of those around him. Whether through small tasks or defending against dangers, Noor was determined to be a force for good in his community. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.